John sat at the head of the long oak dining table, the faint aroma of Serena's homemade lasagna wafting through the room. The years had been kind to him, though the stress lines etched on his face told tales of long hours and sleepless nights. He glanced at his wife, Serena, who was setting the table with her usual grace. At 47, Serena was a vision of timeless beauty. Tall, with long raven black hair cascading down her back, her pale skin glowing under the soft dining room lights. Her commitment to working out and eating well paid off, and she looked much younger than her years. "Dad, you coming to the game this weekend?" Michael, their eldest son, broke the silence, his eyes filled with hope. John forced a smile. "I'll try, Mike. Work's been demanding." The words tasted bitter. He missed too many games, too many family dinners. "Ben," the younger son, chuckled. "That's an understatement. We hardly see you, Dad. Even Mom's been complaining." Serena's eyes flickered with a mix of sadness and understanding. "We just miss you, John. It's been a tough year for all of us." John reached out, squeezing her hand. "I know, and I'm sorry. Just a bit longer, and things should ease up." Serena nodded, but the worry in her eyes didn't fade. She knew the demands of John's job too well. As the vice president of compliance at a major drug manufacturer in New Jersey, John was constantly under pressure. The company, producing both ethical drugs and generics, was one of the largest on the East Coast, and the FDA's scrutiny was relentless. "Did the FDA inspector come by today?" Serena asked, trying to keep the conversation light. John sighed. "Yes, and he found some discrepancies in our paperwork. Now our audits are more frequent, and we're under tighter watch. It's critical that all drugs are accounted for at all times." Michael frowned. "Sounds intense. How are you holding up?" "Long hours and frequent travel," John replied, his voice weary. "I've been going to our warehouse miles away twice a month just to show a presence when the FDA inspector is there. It's difficult work, but necessary." Ben looked at his father with a mix of admiration and concern. "You've always been the rock, Dad. Just don't forget to take care of yourself, too." John gave a small, grateful smile. "I'm training 3 additional compliance techs to take over the load. Hopefully I can step back soon." Serena squeezed his hand tighter. "We're here for you, John. Always." John looked around the table, at his family, and felt a pang of guilt. The job was important, but so was his family. He just hoped the sacrifices he was making would be worth it in the end. John couldn't shake the feeling of guilt that gnawed at him as he looked around the dinner table. He knew the strain his job was putting on his personal life, and the concern in his family's eyes only amplified his resolve to make a change. As the evening wore on, John and Serena found a quiet moment in the living room. The fire crackled softly in the fireplace, casting a warm glow over the room. Serena curled up next to John on the couch, resting her head on his shoulder. "I've been thinking a lot lately," John began, his voice barely above a whisper. Serena lifted her head, her dark eyes searching his. "What do you mean?" John took a deep breath. "I'm planning to retire soon. I've been working so hard to get everything in order at the company. Once we're recertified and the new techs are trained, I'll step back. I want to be here with you, with the boys." Serena's eyes widened in surprise, a mix of joy and disbelief. "Are you serious?" "John, that's wonderful news." A small smile tugged at John's lips. "Yes, I'm serious, but I want it to be a surprise. Our 25th anniversary is coming up next month, and I want to tell you then, when everything is settled." Serena's smile faltered slightly, but she quickly masked it. "I can't wait," she said, hugging him tightly. John's heart swelled with love for his wife. He wanted to make their anniversary special to show her just how much she meant to him after all these years. The idea struck him as he walked through downtown a few days later, searching for the perfect gift. He passed a quaint little jewelry shop, tucked away down a narrow alley, and remembered the recommendation from a friend. He entered the shop, greeted by the soft chime of the bell above the door. The owner, a Pakistani man who had immigrated to the country over 15 years ago, welcomed him warmly. Good afternoon, sir. How can I help you today? The jeweler asked, his English perfect and his smile genuine. I'm looking for something special for my wife, John explained. It's our 25th anniversary, and I have a diamond ring I'd like to be reset into a necklace. The jeweler's eyes lit up with interest. Let me see the ring. John handed over the ring, watching as the jeweler examined the stone with expert precision. Ah, a 1.15 carat diamond. Beautiful, clear white. The jeweler pulled out several white gold and sterling silver settings, each one more exquisite than the last. John's eyes settled on a setting that featured 3 small diamonds surrounding a large central stone. That's perfect, John said, feeling a surge of excitement. How long will it take? It will be ready in about 2 weeks. The jeweler replied, jotting down some notes. I'll take good care of it. John left the shop feeling lighter than he had in months. As he walked back to the main street, he glanced to his right and saw Serena emerging from a hotel lobby. His heart skipped a beat, and he quickly ducked back into the alley, watching as she hailed a cab. Why was Serena at a hotel, and with Bill of all people? John's mind raced with possibilities, but he pushed them aside, convincing himself that there must be a reasonable explanation. Perhaps she was planning something for their anniversary and needed Bill's help. That evening, John couldn't shake the unease that had settled over him. He decided to probe gently, to see if Serena would reveal anything. How was your day? He asked as they settled into their usual spot in the library, a room filled with comfortable chairs and the faint scent of old books. Uneventful, Serena replied, her voice steady. I stayed home, did some cleaning. John's heart sank. She was lying. He decided to test her further. Have you seen Bill lately? I need to talk to him about some work-related. Serena hesitated for a fraction of a second before shaking her head. No, not since we were at their place last week. The lies were piling up, and John's suspicion grew. He decided to wait and see how things played out, but the seed of doubt had been planted, and it was quickly taking root. The doubt gnawed at John over the next few days. He couldn't shake the image of Serena leaving the hotel with Bill, and her lies only fueled his suspicions. He needed to know the truth, and he was determined to find it. One evening, as Serena was out running errands, John made a decision. He called an old friend from the electronics industry, someone he trusted implicitly. Hey, Tom, it's John. I need your help with something. Sensitive, John began, his voice low and urgent. Tom listened intently as John explained the situation. I need to know if Serena is seeing someone behind my back. Can you recommend some surveillance equipment? Tom didn't hesitate. I understand, John. Here's what you need to do. Following Tom's instructions, John ordered a set of voice-activated bugs and 2 receivers, one for the house with a short range and another for Serena's purse with a longer range. The equipment arrived the next day, and John wasted no time setting it up. That evening, while Serena was out shopping, John meticulously planted the bugs in various rooms of the house. He placed one in the living room, another in the kitchen, and one in their bedroom. He even managed to glue a bug into Serena's purse without her noticing. He tested the setup, turning on the radio in the spare bedroom and listening from the workshop in the basement. The clarity of the sound reassured him. Now, all he had to do was wait. The next day, John couldn't focus on his work. His thoughts kept drifting back to the bugs he had planted and what they might reveal. When he finally returned home, he rushed to the basement and checked the recorder. There was a recording. John's hands trembled as he rewound the tape and pressed play. The first sound he heard was the phone ringing, followed by Serena's voice. Hello? Why are you calling me now? What do you want? No. You know I won't meet you today or tomorrow. I won't do anything now until he goes out of town. Yes, same time and place. Goodbye. John's heart sank. The betrayal was real, and it was happening right under his nose. The pain was almost unbearable, but he knew he had to remain calm and gather more evidence. For the next few days, John continued to monitor the recordings. He heard Serena and Bill's conversations, confirming their affair beyond any doubt. Each word, each lie, cut deeper than the last. John's interactions with Serena grew tense, his anger and hurt simmering just beneath the surface. One evening, Serena noticed his distant demeanor. "John, is something wrong? You've been so quiet lately." John forced a smile. "Just tired, I guess. Work's been demanding." Serena reached out to touch his arm, but John pulled away, unable to bear her touch, knowing what he knew. Determined to confront Serena, but not ready to reveal his hand, John decided to bide his time. Their 25th anniversary was approaching, and he planned to make it a night neither of them would forget. The days leading up to the anniversary were agonizing for John. He continued to monitor the recordings, gathering more evidence of Serena's infidelity. The house, once a sanctuary, now felt like a prison filled with secrets and lies. Each recording confirmed the betrayal, and John's heart grew heavier with every word. One afternoon, while Serena was out meeting Bill, John sat in his workshop, listening to the latest recording. Their voices filled the room, each word like a knife to his soul. "I can't keep doing this, Bill. What if he finds out?" "He won't. We've been careful. Besides, he's too busy with work to notice anything. I hate lying to him, but you make me feel alive again." John clenched his fists, the pain of their words almost too much to bear. He had loved Serena with all his heart, and now he felt like a fool, betrayed by the two people he trusted most. That evening, John and Serena sat in their usual spots in the library. The tension between them was palpable, and Serena seemed distracted. "How was your day?" John asked, his voice strained. "Same as always. Just did some cleaning around the house," Serena replied, not meeting his eyes. John's heart ached at the lie. He had heard her with Bill, had listened to their plans, their deceit. But he kept his composure, determined to see his plan through. "I've been thinking," John said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Maybe we should have Bill and Sally over for dinner this week. It's been a while since we all got together." Serena's eyes widened in surprise, then quickly narrowed with suspicion. "I don't think this week is good. Maybe next week?" John leaned forward, his gaze piercing. "I'm traveling next week. I'd rather do it this week." "Is there a reason you don't want to have them over?" Serena hesitated, then stood abruptly. "I need to use the bathroom," she said, fleeing the room. John watched her go, his heart heavy with the weight of her lies. He knew he had to confront her, but he needed more time, more evidence to ensure there was no way she could deny the truth. The following days were a blur of recordings and silent confrontations. John heard Serena making plans with Bill, their voices filled with excitement and secrecy. Each word fueled his resolve, hardening his heart against the woman he once adored. One evening, Serena sat next to John on the couch, her eyes filled with concern. "You've been so distant lately, John. Is something wrong?" John forced a smile, his heart breaking. "Just a lot on my mind, Serena. Work has been stressful." Serena reached out, her hand trembling. "We'll get through this, John. Together." John nodded, unable to speak. He wanted to believe her, wanted to trust her, but the recordings played in his mind like a relentless, painful soundtrack. He knew he had to confront her, but the time wasn't right. Not yet. The tension in the house grew unbearable. John's interactions with Serena became more strained, their once loving conversations now filled with unspoken accusations and silent suffering. John spent more time in his workshop, avoiding Serena, avoiding the truth. As their 25th anniversary drew near, John finalized his plan. The night of the party would be the perfect time to confront Serena and Bill. He wanted to ensure that everything was in place, leaving no room for doubt or denial. The day before the party, John arranged the final details. He hired caterers, organized the guest list, and made sure everything was perfect. The house was filled with the scent of fresh flowers and the soft glow of candles. Despite the outward appearance of celebration, John's heart was heavy with the weight of what was to come. On the evening of the party, John and Serena dressed in their finest. Serena wore a stunning blue dress, one that John had bought her the previous year. It accentuated her beauty, making her look radiant. John couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness as he watched her, knowing this might be the last time he would see her like this. "You look beautiful," John said, his voice thick with emotion. Serena smiled, a flicker of the woman he once knew shining through. "Thank you, John. You look handsome yourself." As the guests began to arrive, John plastered on a smile, greeting each one warmly. Michael and Ben arrived with their wives, followed by Justin and Phyllis, their longtime friends. Finally, Bill and Sally walked in, Bill with his usual charm and Sally with her ever-kind smile. "Congratulations," John Bill said, shaking his hand firmly. "Here's to many more years of happiness." John forced a smile. "Thank you, Bill. We've had 24 wonderful years. Let's see what the future holds." The party was in full swing, with laughter and chatter filling the house. John watched Serena and Bill carefully, noting their subtle interactions, the fleeting glances, the moments when they tried to find a minute alone. He knew their charade would end tonight. Dinner was announced, and everyone gathered around the elegantly set table. John had arranged the seating so that he could keep an eye on both Serena and Bill. His daughters-in-law flanked him, while his sons surrounded Serena. As the meal progressed, John felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He knew the moment was coming, and he steeled himself for what he had to do. When the last course was served, John stood up, tapping his wine glass to get everyone's attention. "I'd like to make a toast," John began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "To friends, to family, and to 25 years of marriage." Everyone raised their glasses, smiling and toasting. John looked directly at Serena, his gaze unwavering. "Serena, my love, these 25 years have been eventful. And tonight I have a special gift for you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out the small gold box from the jeweler. Serena's eyes widened as he opened it, revealing the stunning necklace. She gasped, tears welling in her eyes. "John, it's beautiful." "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. John moved behind her, fastening the necklace around her neck. She turned to face him, her eyes filled with gratitude and love. For a moment, John's heart softened, but then he remembered the recordings, the betrayal. "Enjoy the rest of the evening, everyone," John said, stepping back. "Let's make this a night to remember." As the night wore on, John mingled with the guests, but his mind was focused on the confrontation to come. He watched Serena and Bill, noting every interaction, every whispered word. His resolve hardened with each passing minute. When the party finally began to wind down, John knew it was time. He gathered his courage and approached Serena, his heart pounding in his chest. "Serena, Bill, Sally, could I speak with you in private for a moment?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. Serena looked puzzled, but nodded. The four of them moved to a quiet corner of the living room. John took a deep breath, ready to lay bare the truth. John led Serena, Bill, and Sally to a quiet corner of the living room, away from the remaining guests. The air was thick with tension, and John could feel his heart pounding in his chest. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself for what he had to do. "Thank you for joining me," John began, his voice steady, but filled with an underlying intensity. "I have something important to discuss with all of you." Serena looked at him with a mixture of confusion and concern. "John, what is it?" John reached into his pocket and pulled out a small recorder, setting it on the table between them. "I've been doing some thinking, and I realize there are things happening behind my back that I need to address." Bill's face paled slightly, but he maintained his composure. "John, what are you talking about?" John pressed play on the recorder, and Serena's voice filled the room. The conversation between Serena and Bill played out, their voices unmistakable. The words were damning, and the truth was laid bare. Serena's face went ashen, her eyes wide with shock and horror. Bill looked like he had been slapped, his usual confident demeanor crumbling. "Oh my God," Serena whispered, her voice barely audible. "John, I can explain." Sally's reaction was swift and furious. She turned to Bill, her eyes blazing with anger. "You've been cheating on me with her," she spat, her voice trembling with rage. "How could you?" Bill tried to reach for Sally, but she slapped his hand away, her face contorted with pain and betrayal. "Don't touch me," she hissed. "You lying bastard." John stood there, feeling a mix of pain and vindication. He turned to Serena, his voice cold and controlled. "You've been lying to me, Serena. You and Bill have betrayed me, and I can't forgive that." Serena dropped to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. "Please, John, let me explain. I was lonely, and Bill was there. It was a mistake. I'm so sorry." John shook his head, his heart heavy. "It's too late for apologies, Serena. I trusted you, and you broke that trust." He handed Serena a manila envelope. "These are divorce papers. I want this to be quick and painless, but if you contest it, I will use everything I have against you." Serena looked up at him, her face streaked with tears. "John, please. Don't do this. I love you." John's voice softened, but his resolve remained firm. "I loved you too, Serena. But you chose to betray me. This is the consequence." Sally turned to John, her eyes filled with tears. "Thank you for showing me the truth," she said, her voice breaking. "I don't know what I'll do now, but at least I know." John nodded, feeling a pang of sympathy for Sally. "I'm sorry you had to find out this way. If there's anything I can do to help, please let me know." Sally gave a sad smile. "Thank you, John. I'll manage." Bill stood there, looking lost and defeated. "John, I'm sorry. I never meant for this to happen." John's eyes hardened. "You were supposed to be my friend, Bill, but you stabbed me in the back. I never want to see you again." With that, John turned and walked away, leaving the three of them to process the fallout. He felt a strange mix of relief and sorrow as he left the house, knowing that this chapter of his life was over. John walked away from the confrontation, leaving the living room and heading toward the door. The weight of the evening pressed heavily on his shoulders, but there was a sense of finality that gave him strength. He had done what needed to be done. He went to his study and gathered the last of his belongings. His heart ached as he looked around the room one final time. This house, once a symbol of their love and family, was now a place of betrayal and pain. He heard Serena's sobs echoing through the halls, but he steeled himself against the urge to comfort her. With his briefcase in hand, John walked to the front door. He paused, taking a deep breath, then stepped outside into the cool night air. The driveway stretched out before him, and he glanced back at the house, seeing Serena in the doorway, crumpled and broken. "Goodbye, Serena," he said softly, though she couldn't hear him. He got into his car and started the engine, feeling a sense of liberation as he drove away. His mind raced with thoughts of the future, of the new life he would build away from the lies and betrayal. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but it was a necessary step toward healing. Over the next few days, John focused on finalizing the divorce. He contacted his lawyer, ensuring everything was in order. Serena, devastated and remorseful, did not contest the terms. She accepted the settlement, understanding that she had lost him forever. John spent the days packing up his belongings and making arrangements for his move. He reached out to Michael and Ben, explaining that he and Serena were separating due to irreconcilable differences. He spared them the painful details, wanting to protect them from the full truth. Both sons were shocked and saddened by the news, but they respected their father's decision. "Dad, if there's anything we can do, just let us know," Michael said, his voice heavy with concern. John smiled, appreciating their support. "Thank you, boys, I'll be okay. I just need some time to figure things out." On the day he left the house for the final time, John felt a mix of emotions. He glanced around the empty rooms, memories flooding back Christmas mornings, family dinners, quiet evenings by the fire. It was hard to let go, but he knew he had to. He drove to the airport, his car packed with the essentials. He had booked a flight to Miami, where he planned to start fresh. The idea of a sea cruise appealed to him, a chance to clear his mind and find some peace. As the plane took off, John stared out the window, watching the world below grow smaller. He felt a sense of hope mingled with the lingering pain. This was his chance to rebuild, to find a new path free from the shadows of betrayal. In Miami, John embraced the freedom of his new life. He spent his days exploring the city, meeting new people, and reflecting on the lessons he had learned. The pain of Serena's betrayal still lingered, but it no longer defined him. He was determined to move forward, to create a life that brought him joy and fulfillment. John occasionally kept in touch with Sally, offering support as she navigated her own path of healing. Their shared experience created a bond, a friendship forged in the fires of betrayal. One evening, as John walked along the beach, he felt a sense of peace wash over him. The sun set on the horizon, casting a golden glow over the water. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but he felt stronger, more resilient. He had learned to trust himself, to value his own worth. And in that moment he knew he would be okay. John's new life in Miami began to take shape as he settled into his routine. He found a small, cozy apartment near the beach, where he could hear the soothing sounds of the waves crashing against the shore. Each morning he walked along the sand, letting the salty breeze clear his mind and strengthen his resolve. In those early days, John often reflected on his past, but instead of dwelling on the pain, he used it as a foundation for growth. He immersed himself in activities he had always wanted to try, but never had the time for. He joined a local sailing club, took up painting, and even attended a few cooking classes. These new pursuits brought him joy and helped him rebuild his sense of self. John maintained a distant but cordial relationship with Michael and Ben. He visited them occasionally, keeping their interactions light and positive. They understood that their father needed time to heal and respected his need for space. During one visit, Ben expressed his admiration for John's strength. "Dad, you've been through so much, and yet here you are, finding a way to move forward." "It's inspiring," Ben said, his voice filled with genuine respect. John smiled, feeling a surge of pride. "Thanks, Ben. It hasn't been easy, but I'm learning to take things one day at a time." John also kept in touch with Sally, their shared experience creating a unique bond. They would meet for coffee or dinner, discussing their progress and supporting each other through the healing process. One afternoon, as they sat at a cafe, Sally looked at John with a thoughtful expression. "You know, John, I think we're both stronger than we give ourselves credit for. We've come a long way." John nodded, appreciating her words. "We have. It's been a journey, but I'm grateful for the growth. I've learned to trust myself again, and that's invaluable." Sally smiled, raising her coffee cup in a toast. To new beginnings and the strength to embrace them. John clinked his cup against hers, feeling a renewed sense of hope. To new beginnings. As the months passed, John found a rhythm in his new life. He embraced his independence and the freedom it brought. He no longer worked for someone else's benefit, but focused on his own happiness and well-being. He built a network of friends in Miami, creating a support system that enriched his life. One evening, while attending a gallery opening with some friends, John met a woman named Grace. She was an artist, vibrant and full of life. They struck up a conversation, discovering shared interests and a mutual appreciation for the arts. Over time, their friendship blossomed into something deeper, and John found himself opening up to the possibility of love again. Grace's presence in his life was a reminder that even after the darkest times, there was always the potential for new beginnings and happiness. John learned to cherish the present, appreciating each moment and the people who brought joy into his life. As he walked along the beach one evening, watching the sun set in a blaze of colors, John felt a profound sense of peace. The pain of betrayal had not vanished, but it had transformed into a source of strength and resilience. He knew that whatever the future held, he was ready to face it with courage and an open heart.